see any reason why that second theory doesn't hold water, that they've always been maladaptive. And a lot of people try and look for the reasons that religion, or religious belief or behaviour, has actually benefited human beings in the past. But there's no need for that.
Well, from my point of view, from when I was writing, again, I only wrote this last night, so I apologise for this. But from my point of view, and again, I've been heavily influenced by the writings of Richard Dawkins in this respect, and he's very much of a proponent of the idea that religion in the past, in its initial beginnings, did have some sort of beneficial, it gave a benefit to the person or the people in that environment, because...
Well, his primary reasoning is mainly that religion is helpful. It's an adaptation of a helpful meme that enabled children to reach adulthood.
Yes, survive.
And it's a perversion of that meme.
Yes, it's
that's his main thing.
Yes, it's the idea of the imaginary friend continuing on from childhood into adulthood. And it's a well-standing argument for that idea. But I do admit that the idea that, but if you take it, again, nothing in evolution, in an evolutionary sense, things that survive are normally, they're not beneficial, they're not perverse in any sense. They are things that are well suited to their environment.
Depends what you mean by things. Now that's a very difficult...
Yes, I'm defining thing. All right.
I define them as reproducing entities.
I think this can be something taken up in the discussion.
Do you have another question?
Both speakers so far have emphasised the importance of evolution.
That's because I'm an evolutionary biologist.
In their atheism.
Yes, and so on.
Yeah. And so is Richard Dawkins. He says that Darwinian evolution is what made him give up religion or theism. For me, that's... Well, I've never been a theist ever. So for me, that's... I can see the validity of that argument, but...
For me, I admit I didn't go into my personal reasons why I became an atheist.
Were you ever a theist?
I was brought up in a semi-religious household, never strongly influenced one way or the other. I of course went through the public school system, so I had my Christmas and Easter's indoctrination, but yes, but I basically came to, and again this comes from rationalism, I actually looked at the world as I started growing up and sort of said, I don't see any evidence of there being a God influencing the world.
Okay, so can I put it to you that even if evolution were not true, then you would still be an atheist?
I would still be an atheist.
Okay, fine. That answers my question.
Yes. Although I do hold to the Darwinian theory of evolution as an evolutionary biologist.
Are there any other questions quickly for Matt?
Right, caveat.
Yes, there's a caveat there. In that case, we'll move on to Ash, who founded Godless back in 2007, and he's our final speaker for today. And then afterwards, you're welcome to join us down in the CA for refreshments and continued discussion.
Talk to me later.
I'll just civilise
thank you. So we've had discussions on what atheism is, definitions, reasons people might believe, reasons why there's alternatives to atheism. Most atheists have the kind of idea that in a perfect world, atheism would be the default, because why would the idea of religion, why would the mean, or however you want to term it, comes about. I'm going for the topic, because this talk was organised ages ago and I had the topic of active atheism. Okay, so we know what atheism is, we know why people are atheists, what are we going to do about it now? And there's, I think, 3-4 people here that I don't recognise. Most of the people here either are or were at one point committee members in Godless. Of the people that aren't, how many of you are actually atheists or would call yourself agnostics or skeptics or anything like that? What's everyone else?
Split up?
There's one person.
Split up the terms.
Are you religious at all, if you don't mind me asking? Okay, that's one. That's, well, good. It's not proved me right. Because the thing with this is we're trying to encourage people to come along and listen to atheists talking. We're not trying to attack people too much, at least. But for the most part, you're all here either because you know us or you already agree with what we're going to say and you're willing to come along. And some of the people here I meet up with once a month and generally talk crap and have a few beers. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's not exactly furthering the cause of atheism. There'd have to be some reason why we're all here beyond listening to me talk. Although, thank you. And I have no idea how much of that I stole from the last half of my speech, because I read this morning as well, we're not that well organised. But actually, the organising party is part of the last part of my speech, the old adage of organising atheists is like herding cats. You guys have had your shot at it. So it is quite difficult because the only thing atheists, by definition, have in common is the lack of belief. Beyond that, although I guess I have a fair bit in common with at least the current committee members of Godless, there's all sorts. There's the weak atheists who think, yeah, there's probably no God, I'm not actually going to be actively religious, leave it at that. There's the strong ones who think we need to go burn down churches, and I'll get to that. So I'm talking about active atheism, promoting atheism, so I need to talk about why we would do that, what we hope to achieve, and how we go about it, whether there's good ways of going about promoting atheism, whether there's ways of promoting things that, regardless of your cause, are always going to be bad. I'll go straight to the end of that and say, yeah, some things are bad. Blowing up shit, bad idea. There isn't anybody under the age of 18 here, is there? Because I probably shouldn't swear too much in front of them. Excellent, I can continue. Some of my points are not going to be terribly profound. I'm sorry, I'm not always a terribly profound person. A lot of them are questions that I'm not going to answer, or questions that I can't answer, but there's snacks of something when we're done, so bear with me. As Scott said, I started the club in 2007 because there wasn't one. On campus we've got many religious clubs. There's at least 2 pastors or preachers or similar things if you know where to find them. At the time there was no atheist, agnostic, secular, skeptic, rationalist, anything. And I thought
that's another lecture topic.
I did have a religious upbringing. I didn't always take it that seriously, but obviously it's still left behind in my speech patterns. I will say bless you, I will say oh God.
But that's another lecture topic.
That is another lecture topic. Thank you. Yeah, I tend to ramble a lot, so feel free to poke me with a stick. Yeah, anyway, there was no atheist club, agnostic club, anything like that. I considered that to be a problem, so I started one. I figured somebody had to. I was one with the idea, so I ran with it. I figured there had to be enough atheists on campus who would care enough to join a club. All you could see on campus at the time were posters for Bible talks, things like that, and pub crawls, of course, but you know, I like those. Turns out there were plenty of atheists who cared enough, and the club was formed. That was the easy part. Then it came to the point where we have to decide, okay, we've got a club, what are we going to do with it? Because, yeah, we're atheists. And then everyone had different ideas of what they wanted to do. We're purely a social group who get together because we have one thing in common. We talk about that one thing and then go to the pub, or go to the pub and then talk about that one thing, or, you know, go drink coffee and talk about that one thing. The pub doesn't have to be involved, it just is often. Are we protesters who great crash the Evangelicals Jesus Week and cause a ruckus? Because we can. And some people will say yes to that. And again, that's part of my talk, or hopefully it will be if I get to that point before I get kicked off stage. We eventually decided that we would be promoting debate, getting people to think about the things they believe. So we have lectures when we can, we have debates. The campus Lutheran students approached us for a debate. Last year I participated in the Evangelical students' Big Jesus Week campaign in a debate against one of their preachers. we decided against causing a ruckus. In fact, our constitution states that the club will not do anything with the sole purpose of antagonising any other club. As Nick so succinctly puts it, our constitution just says we won't be dicks. And I'm okay with that. We may disagree with the religious clubs on a basic level with what they believe. Most of us, not all, consider that we don't have the right to stop them from practicing their faith or gathering. They're doing something that we disagree with. Then we need to aim to do something that we like, but do it bigger, do it better. There are, of course, aggressive atheists who do want to attack the religious groups, and some want to emulate them, and that has, its upsides. It can also bring us problems.